Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into one of the strangest corners of media history. Those commercials that appeared on television for a brief moment, shocked absolutely everyone, and then disappeared forever. These aren't the kind of ads you forget after watching. These are the ads that make you sit up, blink twice, and wonder who approved them. The kind that make you ask, was that real? Did I actually see that? And in many cases, the answer was yes, for a moment. And then the ads were pulled, banned, criticized, buried, or edited beyond recognition. Commercials aren't supposed to be scary. They're supposed to sell toothpaste and cereal and insurance policies. They're supposed to be cheerful, catchy, memorable in a harmless way. But every now and then, an ad agency gets a bit too creative, or too edgy, or too shock-focused, and something slips through, something weird, something dark, something disturbing. And because it aired even once, it became part of pop culture mythology. So today, we're exploring commercials that were so strange, so controversial, or so horrifying that they aired only once, or just a handful of times, before vanishing from the airwaves entirely. Some were banned, some were pulled, and others became legendary. Let's start with one of the most surreal ads ever produced. A commercial Microsoft released in 2002 for the original Xbox. The ad, titled "Life is Short," begins calmly enough with a woman giving birth in a hospital delivery room, but instead of a newborn being placed in her arms, the baby is launched like a rocket straight through the window, screaming as it shoots across the sky. As he flies, he ages rapidly. The infant becomes a toddler, the toddler becomes a child, then a teenager, then a middle-aged man, and finally an elderly man hurtling toward the ground. Before he hits, the camera cuts to a grave. The message appears: life is short, play more. It was dark, funny in a shock value way, and strangely profound. But for viewers who had experienced difficult births, miscarriages, or infant loss, the ad felt like a punch to the stomach. The UK's Independent Television Commission received hundreds of complaints, calling the ad offensive and disturbing. They told Microsoft it could only air again if heavily altered. Microsoft chose to remove it from television entirely. And just like that, one of the strangest commercials ever created became a one-airing legend. But Microsoft wasn't the only company pushing boundaries. In 1992, the British soft drink brand Tango released an ad so iconic and so dangerous that it had to be pulled almost immediately. The commercial introduces a guy taking a sip of Tango, and the moment the soda hits his tongue, a huge man painted bright orange sprints toward him and slaps him across the cheeks as hard as he can. The slap became a national catchphrase. You know when you've been tangoed. Kids across the UK loved it. They loved it so much they started copying the slap at school. And not gently. Surgeons reported treating students with genuine injuries caused by reenacting the commercial. One boy even suffered a damaged eardrum and proudly told doctors he got tangoed. Once safety concerns reached regulators, the ad was abruptly pulled. It went from a cultural phenomenon to a banned artifact in record time. From slapstick chaos to literal seizures. We move to a pot noodle ad from 1993. If you were around during the era of early CGI, bright neon colors and wild editing, this ad fit right in. Until it didn't. The commercial featured actor Phil Hartman as an exaggerated American newscaster, shouting into the camera while the screen erupted into rapidly flashing shapes and psychedelic lights. The ad was loud, fast, chaotic, and visually overwhelming. Unfortunately, it was a little too overwhelming. Dozens of viewers filed complaints about headaches, dizziness, and seizure-like symptoms. Several individuals actually suffered epileptic seizures after exposure to the rapid flashing. Medical experts reviewed the ad and determined it violated guidelines for visual safety, especially for viewers with epilepsy. The Independent Television Commission declared it dangerous, and the ad was pulled until a safer version could be produced. It became one of the earliest examples of broadcast media unintentionally harming viewers. Commercials aren't always dangerous because of visual overload. Sometimes they're emotionally brutal. In Canada, an entire series of workplace safety PSAs became infamous for their graphic realism. One particular ad from the late 2000s stands out. It begins with a young chef smiling into the camera, talking about her upcoming wedding and her dreams for the future. She's relatable, likable, and full of optimism. Then, she slips. A pot of boiling water spills onto her face. Steam rises. She screams. The camera cuts to her lying on the floor, her skin covered in third-degree burns. The message is powerful and undeniably effective. But airing this ad between cartoons or family sitcoms? Traumatizing. Parents complained. Workers were horrified. And eventually, regulators agreed that while the message was important, the delivery might have crossed into territory far too intense for casual viewing. The ad was pulled from rotation, though it still circulates online as one of the most disturbing PSA campaigns ever created. But no commercial sparked outrage quite like the 2017 Pepsi ad starring Kendall Jenner. A protest unfolds in the street, vague signs, cheerful chants, and lots of beautiful people smiling as they march. Kendall Jenner, in the middle of a glamorous photo shoot, notices the demonstration, removes her wig, wipes off her lipstick, and joins in. The commercial builds to an odd moment where Kendall hands a police officer a Pepsi, instantly diffusing all tension. The officer smiles. The crowd cheers. Peace is restored through soda. The problem? The timing coincided with global protests against police brutality, specifically the Black Lives Matter movement. The ad was criticized as tone-deaf, exploitative, and trivializing a life and death issue. It was pulled within 24 hours. Public apologies followed, and the ad became a meme representing marketing gone painfully wrong. Not all banned commercials are about political missteps. Sometimes they're banned because they're just too depressing. Take Nationwide's 2015 Super Bowl commercial. Millions of viewers tuned in expecting fun, energetic, light-hearted ads, the kind of thing Super Bowl commercials are known for. Instead, they got a little boy listing all the things he'll never get to do: ride a bike, travel, get married. Because he died. The commercial ends with a message about preventing household accidents. While the intention was noble, the execution felt like a sudden emotional ambush. People were furious. Nationwide withdrew the ad almost immediately, acknowledging that the Super Bowl may not have been the ideal environment for such heavy content. Switching gears, let's talk about robots. Yes, robots. In 2007, General Motors aired a Super Bowl ad featuring an assembly line robot who makes a mistake at work. In the ad storyline, the mistake results in the robot getting fired. The robot spirals into anxiety, depression, and eventually throws itself off a bridge. It was meant to be humorous in a dark, exaggerated way. Unfortunately, suicide prevention groups disagreed. They criticized the commercial for making light of suicide, even if non-human. The backlash was swift, and the ad was removed within days. Now we take a darker turn, into industrial accidents portrayed a bit too realistically. In Quebec in 2006, a PSA aired showing a factory worker getting his sleeve caught in a machine. The ad holds nothing back. The man screams over the sound of grinding metal as the machine drags his arm inward. The camera stays on his face as he realizes he's stuck and his arm is being pulled apart. It's graphic, shocking, and deeply uncomfortable to watch. The realism made people afraid to walk near machinery ever again. It was effective, yes, but effective does not always mean appropriate. The ad was toned down after backlash, and the original version vanished from television. And now, the ad that practically invented the jump scare era of the early internet, the coffee car commercial. If you were on YouTube in the mid-2000s, you absolutely remember this one. A car glides quietly down a scenic countryside road. Calm music plays, the scenery is peaceful, then suddenly, a horrifying zombie face screams at the camera. The ad was originally made for German coffee as part of the Wide Awake campaign, meant to jolt viewers awake. And jolt it did, children cried. Adults spilled drinks, millions were traumatized, complaints poured in. The commercial was removed from mainstream airing and became an internet legend instead, one of the earliest viral shock videos. Sometimes commercials aren't pulled because they're offensive or traumatic. They're pulled because tragedy makes them inappropriate. A heartbreaking example is the FedEx commercial featuring Steve Irwin. These commercials represent a strange intersection of creativity, shock value, miscalculation, and unfortunate timing. Some were genuinely dangerous, some were deeply upsetting, some were simply misunderstood. But all of them share one thing in common. They were watched once, and then never seen again. If you enjoyed this dive into the strangest and most disturbing commercials ever to flash across a television screen, even if only briefly, don't forget to subscribe. We have many more bizarre media stories, dark histories, and unbelievable real events coming your way. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.